Hello and welcome to Family Gamer TV. So it was my brother's 8th birthday recently at the beginning of October, actually the day before Pokemon X and Y came out. So we got him a copy and he was absolutely thrilled. Pokemon X and Y is the sequel to Pokemon Black and White 2, although it's very, very different. Now the biggest change is the 3D graphics. Now this does include 3D as in from the 3DS, so during the battles you can turn on the 3D and you can kind of see your Pokemon in 3D, which looks pretty cool. But actually, the biggest change is the polygonal 3D, which means that the actual look of the games, not 3D that you need to turn your 3D on your 3DS for, but just the objects in the game are made to look as if they're 3D objects, as opposed to having the top-down kind of 2D look that the other Pokemon games have had up till now. And my brother was really excited about this, as he said to me, this is the first game that's done this, so he was pretty excited about that. The story is basically the same. It does introduce a new concept, which is that of Mega Evolution, which is pretty cool. The first time I showed my brother one of my Pokemon Mega Evolves, I was a little further in the game than he was, so he kind of looked at it and was like, oh my god, what is that? How did you do that? Mega Evolution.
What's that?
Yeah, you haven't found it yet.
What?
Yep, you'll find out.
What stone is it?
I don't know. A Mega Evolution stone?
I've got the leaf stone, the hard stone, and the thunder stone.
It's not one of those.
Ooh, I fainted one of your Pokemon.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
So it brings like a sense of mystery and a sense of discovery to it, which is quite nice because the game has been around for a few years now, and the kind of formula is quite the same from game to game. But aside from that, aside from the Mega Evolution, the new story and things like that, it's mostly the same kind of purpose to the game. So you want to go through, you want to collect all the Pokemon, you want to beat the gym leaders, things like that. But there are kind of slight differences. So as for collecting all the Pokemon, there's a new type called the Fairy type, which my brother was also very excited about. The first time he got one, he kind of rushed to come and tell me, I've got a Fairy Pokemon. What he also liked was that there are loads of Pokemon from the previous games. So he was able to go and catch some of his favourites from the old games, particularly Pikachu, which he's a big fan of. He was really, really happy when he caught his Pikachu and came and told me straight away. As for beating the gym leaders, that's the same kind of principle. So you go through, and in some of the towns there's a gym, and you go in and beat the gym leader with your team of Pokemon, and you get a badge, and that lets you raise Pokemon of a certain level and things like that. But the gyms themselves are quite inventive, which you might not expect this far into a series. So one of them has you kind of climbing up rock climbing walls. One of them has you walking around on a giant spider's web. That's the bug gym, obviously. My brother quite liked the differences between the gyms and kind of finding out how to navigate each one. There are some other new features in the game as well, kind of more minor things. So you've got rollerblades, which you get quite early on in the game. These allow you to move around a bit faster, but not as fast as if you're on a bike. So what happens is when you get your rollerblades, you control walking with the D-pad, and then you control rollerblades with the analog stick. So if you want to just walk at a slow pace, you use the D-pad. But if you want to kind of race around and use the 3D of the town, so it's not just a grid anymore. So you can move in all directions as opposed to just up and down and left and right, and move a bit faster. Then you use the rollerblades. But his absolute favourite thing, apart from the fact that the game will last him for ages and ages, which is really good because he won't be begging for a new one, his absolute favourite thing was the multiplayer. So you've always been able to, since the very beginning, trade Pokemon with your friends. That was the whole point of having two different Pokemon games released at the same time. So you had Red and Blue at the beginning, and you've got X and Y now, is that there are a few Pokemon you can only get in one or you can only get in the other.
I have loads of Pokemon, look.
I'm showing you what I want to trade with you. And you're showing me. Cool. Awesome. Oh, offer. Trade Carnivine for Carbink. Yep. What do you reckon, Bo?
I've already done it.
But now, because the technology has updated, you can do this over the internet, or you can do it over local Wi-Fi. So when we were there, when I was visiting him and we were together, we just kind of had our DSs vaguely next to each other, and we could trade like that without any wires or anything. But when I'm at my house and he's at home, we can still trade and things like that over our Wi-Fi. So I'll be able to keep in touch with him, which is really, really cool. We'll be able to trade our Pokemon and we'll be able to battle with each other. The good thing about that is that it makes your Pokemon the same level so that one of you hasn't got an unfair advantage. But we'll be able to do it over the Wi-Fi, and even better, there's a voice chat feature, so you can actually talk to each other through your 3DS microphone when you're playing against each other, which is really, really cool. So in general, this Pokemon game is kind of the same as the other ones, with a few updates that make it feel more modern. But that's not really a problem because the Pokemon games have been popular for a reason. You know, they've got this consistent formula that people really, really love, as proved by the fact that the games went right up the charts when they came out. In fact, if they hadn't been considered two separate games, which they're kind of really not because they're basically the same apart from those few Pokemon, then they would have reached number one in the charts and even beat Grand Theft Auto 5, which is the one that's up there at the moment. So that's really impressive. So obviously they don't really need to change the formula too much because people really, really love playing these games. But it does have a few changes. So even those who are really familiar with the series will find something new to enjoy. But best of all, because of the new look and the way it's been designed, it's really, really friendly for beginners as well. And even very young players can get on board as long as they can read and stuff like that.
I have Dragon Rage on one of my Pokemon, but then I lost it.
Oh, no. So overall, definitely a decent game to consider, whatever your age and whatever your skill level. That's all from me. I'll be back soon.